Anticipation is like a sword pointed at us. It makes us anxious, nervous, and if we're telling the truth, really pretty afraid and fearful. But the fact is, anticipation is the sword that we can take in hand, and when we're wielding it, when we are the one controlling the sword, we are tremendously powerful. Hi, I'm Ron with LeadSkill. We provide tools and resources for leaders who are wanting to learn to manage themselves and other people, especially with emotional intelligence. I'm holding a Japanese sword called a Bokken that we use in martial arts training. And you can't really tell it's a sword because it's pointed straight at you. And that's really the idea, is that you want the opponent to see as little of the sword as possible because they can't really judge how serious the threat is until it's coming in right at them. So this is a Bokken. You can see it from the side. And like I said at the beginning, anticipation is like a sword that we feel pointed straight at us. It makes us nervous. We feel anxious. And what I really want you to see is that anticipation, although it can be a sword pointed at us, it's so much better if we can think of it as a sword that we wield, that's in our hands, that is a powerful instrument for us. Anticipation is such a gift, and it's a vastly underappreciated and unexplored emotion. So what is anticipation? One of the things I really like about the emotions wheel that Robert Plutchik gave us, that we've built all of our tools on, is the arrangement has a very specific order that is based on science and a lot of empirical observation over the years. And so just to look at the emotions wheel again, we've got anticipation up here, it's the orange one. And on the opposite side of the wheel is surprise. So are you surprised by that? Because a lot of people confuse surprise with anticipation. And what Plutchik pointed out to us in his research was that surprise is actually something that it causes us to jump back. Anything that surprises us emotionally produces an involuntary reaction where we jump back. We're surprised. So just think about it. You bring someone into the room where a big party and a celebration has been planned, they're not expecting it, and everyone jumps out and says, "Surprise!" What does the person do? It's involuntary, they jump back. So what is anticipation? Anticipation is where we are leaning in and we want to examine something more closely. We're anticipating, we're looking forward, we're curious. We want to understand, we want to observe more closely. That's what anticipation is all about. And so on the working with emotions wheel that we have here, some of the other words that come up with anticipation that might help you grab hold of this are the words like excited, interested, stressed, because all of those are varieties of anticipation. When I feel stressed, I'm anticipating that what's going on around me and what I've got as far as resources to deal with it is a mismatch, that I'm under the gun, I'm overwhelmed, whichever one you want to use. If you think about some of the others, like I'm excited, that's a type of anticipation of I'm really leaning forward. I'm looking forward to whatever is happening. I'm enjoying myself fully. And so that excitement is a form of anticipation. If I'm interested in something, my curiosity is piqued. I'm wanting to know, I'm wanting to understand, I'm wanting to engage with whatever is going on. And so I'm responding with the emotion of anticipation. So I'm recalling right now a time recently when I was getting ready for an online class, and so I had a couple of things going on. I was really looking forward to the topic that I was going to be talking about, but it wasn't something that I had been doing a lot of work on. It was something of a new topic for me. So I was anticipating something new and pretty exciting, but there was also a few stresses because I had a new piece of equipment that I was having to deal with, and I was also kind of against the clock. Things were coming up quickly, and I was trying to go through the checklist mentally about making sure I had everything prepared. And so the stress was really mounting up for me. And it came time to press the button, go live and start the class. And in that moment, just before it happened, I could just feel like, oh my goodness, I'm not prepared, and this is really tough, and just so much stress. But then once things started and I began welcoming and just going through what I was there to do, to speak to things and to share with people, the stress just kind of went down, and I was able to actually enjoy the experience. I was beginning to use the positive anticipation of sharing knowledge that I was enthusiastic about with people that I knew I could help, and not so worried about the technology working in this new platform and all the mechanics of making it happen. And so in that example, there's both the positive anticipation. I was looking forward and anticipating this topic that I enjoy talking about. And at the same time, the stress, the negative anticipation about things going wrong, and I'm not feeling in charge of my equipment and my time and everything else that's going on. I don't know if you can relate to that. If that's something that you have had something similar where you were really stressed in the moment, and there's a moment of truth of like, what are you going to keep focusing on? Are you going to focus on what you're positively anticipating? Or are you going to focus on the things that you don't want to see happen or that you feel you're at the effect of? So is the sword pointed at you, or are you holding the sword? Are you wielding the sword and in control of using anticipation in a positive way? All right, 2 tips for you and then we're done. First of all, make sure you distinguish between the emotions of anticipation that we've talked about in this video and the mental construct called expectations. So expectations are things, thoughts, judgments, things that we put on ourselves or that we take on from other people. And expectations may seem a lot like anticipation because we're looking forward, but it's in fact a way of putting pressure on ourselves. That can be good pressure, but just make sure it's not the same thing as the emotion of anticipation. So the emotions of anticipation, honestly, the best way to keep this in front of you is to get a copy of the will and to have that just physically in front of you. If not, a digital version on your phone that you can carry with you and just refer to, and just study it. Make it a practice to re-ground yourself about what is the emotion that I'm actually feeling, that I'm experiencing, and not what you're thinking about in your head. And the second tip is a very simple one. Stay curious. The whole key about anticipation, like I talked about, it's not the same thing as being panicky or anxious. That's about fear, and that has its place. That's somewhere else, though, on the wheel. That's in the domain of fear. And it's not about surprise. It's not about being taken aback, and it's not about wonder and awe, which is all about that. Anticipation is leaning in. It's about examining things closely. It's about engagement. And so stay curious. And the best way to do that is to keep asking a question. Ask a question. And if you don't know the right question, at least ask yourself that question. Like, what is the question I need to be asking? And so the best thing to do there is just observe. Stay actively engaged. Not a passive observer, but an active observer. Curious. Trying to understand. Trying to figure out. Trying to just take it all in. That's what anticipation is about. Like a young child watching something that just has them completely mesmerized, and they're just anticipating what's going to happen next, because everything is possible. All sorts of things could happen, and they're just there in the moment. They're curious. And so stay curious with the emotion of anticipation. Thanks for joining me on this video. I really hope that this knowledge and these tips, these tools are useful for you in learning and practicing emotional intelligence. And in order to get yourself a copy of the wheel that I mentioned, we've got links to it down below. And I encourage you to watch other videos in the series. You can see another one up here. It's the Working with Emotions series, and we have 8 of those in the total series. If you've missed one of those, just go check out the playlist and you can see that. If you're looking for a speaker on the topics of mental health and emotional intelligence and leadership, I'd be happy to come into your workplace either virtually or in person if we can work that out. So get in touch with me through the contact notes. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you on the next video.